if an organization has a culture such that I belong and I feel included, it doesn't matter who I am, because I will be valued for who I am.
What were some of your main fears leading up to your transition, and how did you overcome them?
What's my main fears leading up to my transition? I suppose it was several-fold. So financial security. I think the ability to keep earning a living somehow was an anxiety. Fear of rejection was also a big fear. Humiliation, losing my family, losing my friends, losing my status. So there's a lot around loss. That's the biggest fear: losing stability about who I was. Fear of being alone. Fear of being unwanted. Fear of not having what I had, if you like. There's a lot of anxiety around that. And to a large extent, I did lose a lot of things. I did lose much of what I was scared to lose, but I didn't feel like I'd lost it. I felt like I traded it for what I really, really needed and wanted. So I sold my business that I had with 2 business partners. I didn't get a lot of money from it. I got some. I changed my career completely. So most of what I'd done up to that point was around IT, running IT companies. So I lost, if you like, that part of my life. Well, that professional part of my life. I retained my family, so my wife, my children, my parents, my brother. That relationship remained strong and was at the time, so I didn't lose that. But for various reasons, my financial stability was severely impacted. I went through a phase where I had some significant debts that I'd accrued over much of my life. Plus, there were some tax implications for selling the business that I hadn't fully appreciated. And there were also some other legacy tax issues from tax planning in my business life that were going wrong. So I actually financially rebooted and did an IVA. So most of and ended up selling my house because of it. So much of if you like, my financial life, I lost, or it changed significantly. So I think the fear and anxiety about that transitioning, about what I could lose, I think came into perspective by realizing what was important to me. My gender identity was important to me. And I always said that the one red line that I wasn't prepared to lose was my wife and family. And everything else, as far as I was concerned, could fall by the wayside. And reality is that most of that has fallen by the wayside. My old life, many of my old friends, my old reputation, what I used to do, are no longer no longer relevant in my current life. So I've moved on a lot in the last 4.5 years, and rebuilt my place in the world, in my gender, and also my profession.
How important has support been, such as, family, friends, and possibly support groups, been throughout your journey?
I didn't think they were at the beginning. I didn't think I needed support. I've always been a fairly independent, strong-minded, self-willed person, who would often be described as someone who doesn't ask for help often. But I think I was quite vulnerable in the early stages about 4.5 years ago. And I had a number of friends who reached out just to say they were there. Just, if you need anything, I'm here. Should we go out, have a chat? Do you want to talk? So I did. I had a few friends that reached out in a very subtle way, just to be there for me. And I also, as part of that journey, I started networking a lot. I decided that I had to get myself out of bed. I was going through a lot of kind of dark depression. I'd lost my professional identity. I'd lost my personal identity. And I needed to create this sort of stability in my life. I was just floating around up and down without really having a reference point. So I started going to business networking events locally in the Portsmouth area where I live. And I went to a business planning workshop. I went to a cybersecurity conference. I started just going out there, entrepreneurs clubs, and just mixing and mingling people, talking about my business ambitions, my kind of game plan, where I was going to go. And I very quickly built up a new network of people who only knew me as me, who supported me for being me and gave me that self-belief, because I think in those early days, imposter syndrome and limiting beliefs that were very strong, both around my gender identity. Am I trans enough? Am I female enough? Am I good enough to be me? And could I be taken seriously as a person in business and professional? Because you look at the stats, the media, and they paint being trans as a kind of a significant disadvantage. Many trans people don't succeed well in employment, don't succeed well in business world because of the stigma and humiliation we often face. So I was trying to fight back against this mantra of perceived challenge, perceived failure. So I was very strong-willed, and I was very reassured by the support and the people that came to look after me. So yeah, I've built a huge network of people around the world in the space I'm in, and I'm constantly proud of my friends and my network for supporting me, amplifying me. And I think it's turning full circle now, because they value the support, the expertise, the mentoring that I give back to them. So not only have I received, I'm also now giving back.
What does diversity and inclusion mean to you, and why are they important?
I come from the stance where I focus on inclusion and belonging. I think if you generate a sense of belonging with an organization, if the culture has if an organization has a culture such that I belong and I feel included, it doesn't matter who I am, because I will be valued for who I am. So I'm a strong believer that that's the core. Think about the culture, think about the vision and values of an organization, think about what you stand for. And then through that, I will feel that sense of belonging or alignment with you as an organization, with my colleagues, and then I'll feel included. I think if we truly get that right, then focusing on diversity, people often misuse that term. I think we can have diverse groups, we can have diverse organizations, but we don't have diverse people. People are diverse by definition. What we have is people who are unique. And what we need to do is recognize the intersectionality. We need to recognize who they are and celebrate them for that difference or for that similarity. So I want people to see my transness. I want people to see my gender identity. I'm sure people who are Black want people to see their ethnicity and faith and not hide that. So that's part, for me, it's about bringing your whole self to work. It's about being allowed to succeed as you and thrive as you and not have to mask or cover it. So diversity for me is the mix, it's the ingredients, it's what makes up the world. And inclusion is what helps us all stick together and feel that sense of belonging and build that culture.
So, as a key role model in the queer community, why is it important that we continue to raise awareness and support that community?
I think, like all marginalized or underrepresented groups, and I'm not sure the word community always applies, I always worry, because is there a white community? Is there a straight community? What we're trying to do is we're trying to join people together who not necessarily have similar outcomes or outlooks or backgrounds and call them a community. It almost implies there's an organized gay rights campaign. We're all in it. I don't think personally that's the case. So I think the word community I sometimes struggle with, because we're really just a queer population. We're a group of people who happen to have an allegiance to a flag, if you like, for want of a better way of putting it. But I think it's important that we raise awareness, not just for the queer community, for marginalization of people who are Black, Asian, or other ethnicity. We look at what's going on in the media at the moment around violence against women and how we're trying to fight back, how we're trying to create awareness campaigns for men. So I think what it's important to do is stand up and be allies for anyone who feels marginalized, any community that isn't represented in society. So the queer community, we're intersectional. we have people who are disabled, we have people who are of black, we have people who are white, we have people who are neurodivergent, whatever it may be. So we are made up of a whole gamut of spectrum. So I think what the queer group, the queer community can do is be representative of all queer people and make sure that we stand up for women's rights, we stand up for racial rights, and we use our power and our support to stand together as a marginalized group and use our strength to be able to amplify and fight back.